The horse. He embodies a mystique, an aura. He harbors a spirit that knows no boundaries. There's a trust that shouldn't be broken. The partnership between horse and rider must be nurtured, respected. This partnership has to be treated as fragile, and in return a bond will develop that can't be broken. There's no secret as close as that between a horse and a rider. The horse is special.
Equus, the modern horse. For 60 million years, a work in progress. For countless centuries, galloping the open spaces of the planet. Adapting, evolving, changing with the times. Weaving a rich historical tapestry without ever abandoning the core elements of nobility, grace, beauty, spirit, and power. It is the most noble of creatures, and without question, has been humankind's most essential animal partner throughout the ages. The modern-day sport horse is 60,000 centuries removed from Eohippus, its prehistoric ancestor that stood only 14 inches high and called the North American continent home. These modern-day elite athletes stand 5.5 feet at the wither, have an exceptional fitness level and musculature, and above all, require character and heart to succeed as athletes. Each is an individual, with its own special story. It's a long road to the top of any sport. In international show jumping, the road is a decade long at best, if all goes well. The Royal Manitoba Winter Fair provides a forum each year that establishes whether or not you've arrived. This is a glimpse at the lives of two such horses, in the throes of competition. Have they arrived? Another page from the Spruce Meadows Horse Diaries.
Spruce Meadows Horse Diaries, brought to you by Bank of Montreal. It is possible. And by Chrysler Canada, makers of the world's best-selling minivan.
I think what makes Indio so special is his beauty on the ground, in the air, almost picture perfect physically to look at. Picture perfect in the air when he's over a jump, and his mind and his spirit, like I say, are right there for you.
It's a sport that requires dedication, determination, and courage. It's taken years, a lifetime of hard work. You ride into the ring and that crowd, they're sitting there, and you know then you're not just riding for your team, you're riding for your country. There's nothing like it. The Bank of Montreal Nations Cup.
It's a complicated puzzle. Survival and success in this game require very different strengths than in the horse's natural environment. Crowds, lights, the course. It's the first night of competition at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. For veteran Grand Prix rider Jonathan Asselin, the order is tall. To see how his impressive 9-year-old gelding Indio can handle all that comes with competing in the big leagues. Each step of a show jumper's career must be carefully managed. Horses, so powerful, so impressive, can also be very fragile. Each horse is an individual and must be understood completely, like any athlete being coached to achieve.
For sure he has a unique personality. I think that he's a very willing, pleasant personality. But I think if you also, as I was kind of saying, if you ask for a little more and you want that competitive edge, there's a real spirit that comes through and almost bulliness. I wouldn't say a bully, but because he's not, but you need a little physical strength as well to ride him. He can get a little bit heavy and rude in his mouth, and to me it's just there's a lot of talent there, and he's kind of saying, well, I can do it and leave me alone, and has his own way about him, and it sure is a beautiful way because he jumps so well.
At 7 years of age, Dunvegan is just maturing into his prime competitive years. He carries in the saddle John Anderson, an Olympic and World Championship veteran, who, like all riders, is in search of his next great teammate. This event, this venue, mark a new chapter in their new partnership.
John Anderson on Nesmith Burns Dunvegan, entry 302.
Like Jonathan Asselin with India, John Anderson and Dunvegan are flawless. The raw ability of this young gelding, combined with the experience and confidence of Anderson, for a solid result.
We now have 3 for the jump out.
The road continues for the Canadian Olympic team veteran.
The biggest thing is attitude. I mean, you can have a horse that can jump the biggest fences in the world, but on any given day, if he doesn't want to go in and give his best, you're not going to cut it. And, a horse like Gobi that I had in the World Championships years ago, he was a horse like that. Dunvegan, okay, it's very early to tell, but everything that I've seen from him so far, attitude-wise, power-wise, everything in the mind, I think he's got it all. When you end up getting a horse that's got that extra, you notice. Okay, I mean, Dunvegan, for example, I'll be trotting by this little, little sign every time. He doesn't even spook at it. All of a sudden, one time he decides he wants to spook and freak out at it. That's just an attitude that the horse has. Kind of letting you know that, hey, I'm something. He doesn't have to spook at that little sign that he's trotted by it 6 times, but he does it because, he's got that little extra, what it takes.
Here he is, Jonathan Asselin and Indio, entry 39, the first of 3 in the jump-off round.
What it takes, attitude and ability. This is life. This is sport.
I'll take this.
Each trip into the competitive arena is important. In the short term, it's important. Victory on the day is important, as is qualifying for the tournament's final event. In the long term, it's about improving, progressing, and getting the most out of the partnership on a consistent basis for years to come. Indio continues to thrive in the environment.
There we go, 39.22 and clear.
A clean jump-off round. The challenge has been laid down to John Anderson.
Yes, he made some short turns.
John Anderson is the fiercest of competitors, who knows what it takes to play at the top of the sport. But is this the time? With this young horse, is this the time to really push? They can be so very fragile.
Two rails down, 8
The gelding stings himself on a rail. A costly rail, perhaps, in both the short and the long term.
I think he just stung himself. He, jumps good though, huh?
7, 12, and 8.
And that's a lot. That's a lot for him to do, you know. And
You think you got hurt on that last jump? Is that what it was?
well, he banged it pretty hard, huh? So I think he's okay though.
The night in Brandon belongs to Jonathan Asselin and Indio. Sweet success in the competitive arena.
Congratulations, Jonathan Asselin and Indio. And thank you to Mr. Fitzgerald, President and Chief Operator.
A new day, a new chapter. Bigger stakes, bigger prize money. John Anderson will look to rebound from disappointment, while Jonathan Asselin will look to establish a trend, a winning trend in Brandon, Manitoba. Each day offers a new course design, new technical and physical challenges for horse and for rider. The crowd builds, and with it, a certain degree of nervous, competitive anticipation.
You know, we were leading the class. We went in and went with the jump off, and I kind of pushed him a little too hard. You still have to know the horse is a green horse, inexperienced. Okay, you need to take your time with these types of horses, and you know, let him tell you when he's ready to move on to the next step. Again, I think he will tell me very soon that it's a next step time, but again, you have to wait for him to actually say it.
Patience is a big key. I think if you can take the time when you're riding any horse, but especially nice horses, to try and figure out what is going on underneath you and what the horse wants or needs, or I think the horses really appreciate it. And I think if you remark all those things, the horse really understands that, and you develop a relationship that is long-lasting.
So simple in theory, so complex in reality. Dunvegan, fully recovered physically from the sting of the rail, will now need to be carefully managed and worked to re-establish his competitive confidence. It's another sellout night at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. Indio is first in the order of go. Not an easy position. The track is bigger and tougher than that of the previous day.
This is entry 39, Jonathan Asselin on horse called Indio.
This combination has quickly established themselves as crowd favorites. While Asselin and Indio impress the crowd, there are problems in the warm-up area. The 7-year-old gelding Dunvegan doesn't seem to want to go to work. On course, a small miscue. 4 faults for Indio.
Now, if the rider gets his horse right underneath the jump, it makes it very difficult for the horse to get his legs up quick enough.
The door has now been left open for Anderson and Dunvegan. Have their differences been sorted out? Attitude, after all, is everything.
From the takeoff point that the rider puts him at. And John will be looking to try and move into the lead with a clear performance here tonight.
The inexperience of youth. The benefits of learning by doing. Learning by error. Both Indio and Dunvegan are less than perfect on the day.
They for sure all have personalities, and it's interesting. I read a book this winter called The Man Who Listens to Horses, and it's about Monty Roberts' life with horses and how he studied wild horses. And it's really interesting. I've been around horses all my life, and it really taught me a lot to look for what to look for in their communication, how they communicate.
Believe me, they can talk to you. They just do it in different ways. They have no problems letting you know they're upset about something or happy about something. And again, it's just a relationship. I mean, it's a funny thing to say that, but you do form a relationship with the animal, and it makes it all worth it when you finally get that.
Not everyone can win every time out. Rails for both Indio and Dunvegan keep them from the medal podium. It's more common than uncommon. It's a part of sport. It's on to tomorrow. The Spruce Meadows Derbies have established themselves as two of the most demanding events in international show jumping. Over a kilometer in length, more than 20 jumping efforts. And in July of 1986, Jonathan Asselin went into the history books with a clear round aboard the 12-year-old Hanoverian gelding, Brigadoon.
How about it? Tremendous effort. Brigadoon does it.
Pair of Liverpools are still in.
July 1994, the clock was running in the jump-off as John Anderson with his veteran campaigner Scirocco jumped to victory in the Chrysler Classic and enter another page in the Spruce Meadows history books. Will Dunvegan carry John Anderson to his next victory at Spruce Meadows?
So that's the standard.
This sport, I mean, it's a disease. I mean, I've been doing it since I was 5 years old. Just that thrill, that 60 seconds of your time when there's no one in the world bothering you. You're in the ring, you're by yourself, you and your animal. It's hard to explain that to somebody.
It's a sport that requires dedication, determination, and courage. It's taken years, a lifetime of hard work. You ride into the ring and that crowd, they're sitting there, and you know then you're not just riding for your team, you're riding for your country. There's nothing like it. The Bank of Montreal Nations Cup.
As an athlete, when I need traction, I put on a pair of cleats. Did you know, in show jumping, the riders have cleats for their horses as well, and they're called corks, and they come in all shapes, sizes, and lengths depending on the traction they need. The riders just screw them into the horseshoes, and that's what gives the horses the traction. In all sports, we need equipment. For instance, in hockey, the hockey players have shoulder pads, they have knee pads, they have hockey pants, they even have shin pads. Did you know? In show jumping, the horses also need pads. For instance, the brushing boot. This is what protects the horse's front legs when he's jumping. It's his pad. In a lot of sports, you have specialized footwear. For instance, in hockey, you have the hockey skate. In skiing, you have the ski boot. Did you know? In show jumping, they have their special footwear too, the bell boot. This is what goes over the hoof and protects the horse from overreaching.
The final day of the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. The main event. The Brandon Sun Grand Prix. The toughest test yet for both Indio and Dunvegan.
I think Indio jumps in a real classic style, Jonathan's horse. Whereas I don't think my horse does. I mean, he's more of a sheer power guy, jump a foot and a half over the jump, you know, kind of flip his hind end up a little bit, whereas Indio is really the classic style as a horse.
Dunvegan, I think, is just a young horse that looks like he has a lot of power and will be a very useful horse in good hands. John's a real competitor, a good rider with a lot of experience. I would say there's a little less blood in Dunvegan. Indio has good size to him, like John's horse, Dunvegan, but I think with a little bit more spunk to him and a little more blood, which is nice to have in reserve.
Jonathan has negotiated the course successfully on Domini SM.
The resumes, the opinions, the results of yesterday or yesteryear are all academic now. Horse and rider in a sold-out stadium, together against the course, against the clock. An early rail, and hopes of victory are shattered. Jonathan Asselin, the consummate horseman, pulls up to save his partner for another day. The scenario plays into the competitive psyche of John Anderson. Can he guide his 7-year-old gelding to a clear round and a chance at Grand Prix victory? On this night, the answer is a definitive no.
I had a short approach to the first jump, and maybe he wasn't quite awake yet, but he gave a lot of great efforts tonight, and I'm not disappointed at all because he's a young horse and he's come a long way in a very short period of time. So I'm happy with it. Sure, I'd like to win, but I'm happy.
Success in team sport is dependent on a lot of things, including team depth. Jonathan Asselin's disappointment of an early rail with Indio is more than tempered by the big league performance of Indio's stablemate, the 8-year-old gelding Domini.
Domini has a special place in my heart. He did long before this show, and I think he's really coming home for me. He's just a great competitor, a great friend. He's a friendly horse, and a beautiful horse.
Is it a little tough when you have two horses? The one horse goes in, Domini went first. He went clean, he let down a little?
I think maybe I did, and I should have been a little bit more focused and a little bit more organized on Indio. But having two horses sure is an advantage, and two nice ones at that.
Success in life, success in sport. Both can be measured in many ways. Through the centuries, many of humankind's most significant successes have been in partnership with the horse. Over 3 days at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, success, achievement, victory, and disappointment all came to light from only a few excerpts of the Spruce Meadows Horse Diaries. They speak in silence. Their story is this land. We are their heirs. They, our inheritance.
Spruce Meadows Horse Diaries has been brought to you by Bank of Montreal. It is possible. And by Chrysler Canada, makers of the world's best-selling minivan.